Hello and welcome to Mile High Mana. Today we have another special guest episode. We have Ian Hennig on the call here today. Ian is one of the pillars of the Denver community and the proprietor of the Mountain Magic Series, which is a regional tournament series in Denver. It's one event per month of varying formats with a championship towards the end. So both Lee and I have been attendees of this tournament series now for the better part of its existence, so about 3 years. And it's something that's become sort of a mainstay of the local Denver community. So, Ian, I appreciate you hopping on and, looking forward to chatting with you a little bit,
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for inviting me on, guys.
no doubt. Cool. So, really, the agenda is going to be focused all about Ian here. Want to learn a little bit about you, maybe just go through a quick introduction on yourself, some of your background with Magic, how you ended up starting to play Magic, what really generated your love for it, and then we'll dive into the MMS here. Really keeping it super informal. Just want to pick your brain, Ian. So I'll pass the torch over to you too if you want to give us the brief introduction and background.
Yeah, for sure, Grant. Thanks. Let's see. I started playing Magic in '99. That's Urza's Destiny. I took about 15 years off when I hit college, and then came back right around Kaladesh. So like Scarab God Standard. I was like overseas, and I just saw like a Facebook post for some sort of draft or something like that. And I thought, you know what, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'll get back into it. So, off and on for, gosh, man, probably like, it must be like 15 years now. So, yeah, I think I got into Magic because I thought the art was sweet. And yeah, it's sort of been this evolving hobby, passion. It's a lot of things all wrapped up into one amazing game. So, yeah, just glad to have it a big part of my life still, actually, all things considered.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you're not alone there, right? We're doing a Magic podcast, so we're addicted as well as everybody else. But what are you playing these days? What do you like in your free time? You play online at all, or is it all in paper tournaments? And what formats are you into right now?
Yeah, great question. I'm trying my hand at Dual Commander right now, coming up for Vegas, and some Legacy also for Vegas. But yeah, I try to play in paper otherwise, but it's just more feasible to test for that kind of stuff online since there's not a ton of support for that. um, locally, at least Dual Commander. So yeah, that's sort of what's got my attention. And but otherwise, I try to play pretty much everything, um, except for I haven't actually gotten into like the politics of Commander just yet. But I'm sure there's appeal there that I could warm to eventually.
I was gonna say dual commander and legacy. You're kind of speaking my language. Do you tend to like lean towards all of the really high powered formats?
I think I lean towards formats that let me play Magic the way I want to play it, which I think just happens to be like high power and sort of high velocity, high leverage on certain interactions, and less of sort of the two ships passing, but sort of setting up for crucial, you know, sets of interactions and sort of knowing really in really fine detail what both decks can do and how to navigate those really intricately and sort of like use your, I guess, intuition, but also maybe your sort of people reading skills to sort of get the upper hand and sort of misdirect your opponent, or but also could read them to sort of, okay, he has the days, doesn't have the days, I lose, I win, right? Yeah, I feel like Vintage Cube also kind of falls into that, although that's just basically like rolling the dice at this point, it feels
Yeah, I
like.
definitely think Ian. We've sat across the table from each other, probably in like more than 4 or 5 different formats now. So I think you definitely are very well versed across the table, and you typically lean towards like the stompy, colorless, sort of creature based death and taxes initiative sort of wedge. Is that what you mean, sort of like high velocity, and what led you to really liking that gameplay style?
I think I remember I was playing Gaia's Cradle in Standard. I think it's one of my first decks, and that was just sort of you know, cast Vine Dryad, basically, which is green grief with no ETB to get like 2 mana, to get two creatures on the battlefield on turn one, and then have, Might of Oaks ready on turn two. I think that's the sort of how I always sort of enjoyed the using a bunch of resources incrementally and sort of accumulating them and sort of timing them properly to get around like more powerful effects. Like playing around Wrath of God and counter magic is like my favorite thing. When I started playing back in the day, there were no planeswalkers, so it was a little simpler of a game. There was no like sub game that people dropped in. But yeah, that was being sort of the underdog-ish and sort of, I don't know. It's kind of like playing. I guess you'd like if I played like rugby and football at one point, and chasing and playing defense was always sort of my thing. So I think that's kind of the vibe here.
No doubt. Yeah, I also played rugby and football, so I would almost call that as like fighting the uphill battle, if that makes sense. Fighting
Oh,
the best
totally.
deck on an axis they can't fight on.
Yeah, totally, man. You get it. It's just yeah, putting all your force into like those good hits and hoping they get you there.
No doubt. Cool. And you've been around Denver for basically your whole life, right? Like you were born and raised here.
I was we moved to Colorado when I was like three from San Diego. I grew up Western Slope, which is actually like over by Glenwood Springs. Carbondale is what it's called. But yeah, there was not much for Magic over there since I mean, back then it's just like cowboys and hippies. Now it's all like trendy or whatever. But back in the day, I used to come down to Denver for the pre-release. It was all held in one giant conference. Like there was one pre-release for all of Denver. We drive down. My parents drive me down. 350 people in a room in a hotel conference room. Smelled like you can imagine. Back when they used to give lunch rounds. And So yeah, I've been coming to Denver for long. I've been in and out. Probably lived here this last spell for probably I think it's what 6 years now. But I've been kind of all over.
And so Kaladesh was when you made that pivot towards a more competitive approach to the hobby.
Kaladesh is when I came back from like a 15-year break. I went to college and um, just decided I was kind of done with Magic. I was going to sort of phase change into I was going to do other things. So I put it down. Um, Magic. I wanted to sort of do just different things, and so I decided to, and that carried on. And then I was hanging out other places, and I was sort of bored, and I rediscovered it, and I was very happy to do so.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to develop a really powerful love for this game to do what you do today, which is obviously the Mountain Magic series. And maybe my overview was good, maybe it wasn't good, but if you want to just take a moment to talk about, your tournament series, we'd love to hear just sort of the biography of it, and then we'll walk into like, walk us through the history of it. I'd really, it's so interesting to me that you really took the initiative here for lack of a better term, the initiative, and
Yeah.
started your own like series because you just saw this desire in the Denver local meta to play more Magic and play more Magic that matters. Go.
Yeah, so the MMS came out of a time when there was no uh, PTQ, RCQ sanctioned play on the books. Wizards was sort of in limbo about how they were going to approach that. We were kind of in the middle of the MPL, that sort of failed attempt at esports or whatever it was. And I just was really feeling like playing more competitive Magic and decided that I probably had a good enough relationship with the stores, and they seem to have plenty of free space, and if they were going to be making the money and I knew plenty of people who wanted to play, and I could probably just connect to everybody by some way or another to make sure that we could all kind of have our opportunity to play high level Magic, because there's a lot of great people, there's a lot of great players around here, but there's just didn't seem to be any glue for it. So yeah, it was a sort of random, off the top of the head. a spitball that became a real thing.
And so I'm curious, you know, like obviously that's super, like that's wonderful, right? Like you want to take Magic and make it competitive when competition like doesn't exist, right? What's the starting point look like? Because I feel like oftentimes folks, especially in this game, you know, we want to do this, we want to do the gathering more, we want to get the community together, and sometimes things just kind of die in the group chat. And you made that sort of come to life, which is a rarity, frankly. So, like, what is the process and logistics behind, you know, what you did on year one, how it progressed in year two, and then year three?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just a matter of talking to stores and saying, "Will you give us the space to play?" This was at the time there was I can't remember how I first came to know about Meh Games, which is down in Greenwood Village, where Meh Games and Kyle there, we really owe a lot to him in that he kind of gave us our start. I'm not sure necessarily that other stores might have been so, you know, forthcoming with their space to a brand new idea. But I think ultimately all of this, it's basically a nonprofit activity at this point. It's just it's helping the stores. I respect people's like sort of priorities in that the stores are trying to get money. Their space is kind of at a premium, so we got to respect that. But then also wanting to make sure that, um, and then on the other side, that players have a chance to play what they want to play. And so, really threading that needle just looks like getting a sense of what's in demand from players and communicating to the store, by basically just, I make an introduction. I say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is the structure that I have in mind. I don't make any money. It's all you. Players get this. It's all very mapped out. So it's very clear. It's not a complex structure by any means. We play with like 64 players, at most, given the space limitations. Um, and yeah, I think that it just sort of made sense for everybody. And I was, yeah, I started playing really intensely when I first came back here. Um, so yeah, I did get to meet and know a lot of people, and I talked to a lot of people when I saw them about it, and I just sort of spread that organically. And it made sense for the stores. It was easy to fit in. I suggested times, I had the payout, the whole thing, and but that was just the idea. That was basically imitating your average, like your Star City Games or somebody like that. I didn't have to create a whole structure or anything. I simply said, let's just do what they do, but bring it here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. To me, the most compelling thing about the MMS was always playing the team trios. I think what's cool about the series in general is that the formats are different every month, right? It kind of like rotates around and changes. And, obviously you have some discretion there, right? Running it. But like, I don't think I played a bunch of them the first year. Like, was team trios always part of the format? Was that always something that you wanted to do?
Great question. I think we did one the first year. Yeah, because it has always been, while an attempt to play competitively, also a chance to play some things that don't, see a lot of sunshine, get a lot of attention. And so, uh, the variety, I think a truly good Magic player can play like any format basically. It requires not just knowing like my modern deck or whatever, but it's understanding the principles of Magic across formats. So, and then being lucky as hell.
There's definitely like a beauty to the whole series because it sort of appeals to both sides of the coin. Like you have, the current reigning champion of the Mountain Magic series, Sung Kim, plays one format and one deck in that format, and he does it better than anyone I've ever seen in my life. And so like a player like that can qualify for the championship and win the championship doing what they're best at. and it also appeals to the variety gamer. Like, myself and Lee, we play a lot of formats. We play, modern, pioneer, standard, legacy, dual commander. It's all over the place. And so, like, for us, we qualified this year basically just by being top of the pile in like three or four different formats, as well as the team events. So it's really like it's beautiful in its construction, and I'm curious like how you came up with the structure of it, because the one variety event a month for 12 months and then the championship series is like it's atypical to me. Was that like a model that you found previously from like a Star City, like you mentioned?
No, like it all comes back to demand. I recognize that, and I'm in marketing, and so I'm always thinking about what people want and kind of how to give it to them. And I know that if you don't, they just don't show up, and everything can easily sort of fall apart. So I'm always I'm very sensitive to and always trying to get information about like what people are interested, the state of the format, the health of whatever, the excitement around things. So it's mostly just me trying to channel what's out there into a tournament that people want to play in. And so that's I think originally it was I wanted to play team events. I just always thought they were cool. I'd never been to one. I have, I had never, and I thought, I like modern, I like pioneer, I like standard, I like all of it basically. And so let's kind of figure other people do too, since I would see the same people, over and over at like you said, you guys are top of the pile. You play a lot of formats, and that's so. Mm, yeah, it's really sort of evolved to be the way it is, just because I think that's what people want, and they can't get it during RCQ season now that those have started again. Like playing modern or playing standard for like 3 months or whatever it is. You want to play Magic, but you don't want to necessarily play that after a certain point. It gets so serious, it gets so grindy, but you want to take a break.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of good players in Denver, and like the competition is stiff at all these events, and it does feel like a grind sometimes, but I don't know. I'd kind of rather be in this universe than the one where we started in 3 years ago where there was nothing to play in. I find it just unbelievable how many great competitive events we can play in if you choose to play on any given weekend. There's basically a competitive event to come play in, so I think that's fun. But to me, the MMS thing is just an opportunity to play team trios, which is always my favorite. And then, just the huge variety of formats, right? Like it's hard to find legacy for stakes. And we do get to play a legacy event, at least one. I think we had two last year and one this year, right? So like it's one of those things that it really does add variety to the competitive scene, and that's what makes me appreciate it the most. Um, let's change topics here a little bit. Is there any part of this that's been either harder than you anticipated or more rewarding or whatever? Like, is there anything that if you look back on, like, didn't really turn out as you expected?
I didn't really have any expectations going into it. So, and I think people would be surprised just how easy it was to get to kind of get off the ground, simply by way of just kind of connecting, being the sort of the bridge between the community and the game stores, in a sort of structured way. I think satisfying the juggling the varied interests and demands and um, expectations of different people is probably the most difficult part. Everybody loves this game. They love it in their own way. They love different parts about it. Trying to give everybody what they want is a challenge. And Magic players, they have their opinions, and they're not shy about sharing them sometimes. So, but that's good. That actually helps because then I know what people want, and I don't have to guess. So, and it's kind of like it can be sort of frustrating at times for people to be like always telling me like this is what would be good, this is what I want. But at the same time, that's what keeps this thing going, like that sort of open dialogue. A lot of the advancements or sort of the evolution of the MMS overall is driven by me getting feedback from people, being open to it, and trying to see it done. Because yeah, like sure, I kind of got it off the ground, but anybody could have, I think, done the same thing if they kind of were just in that spot.
Yeah, well, this isn't a political podcast, but I'm a big fan of benevolent dictator setup. So, we appreciate you running it. And then someone's got to make the decision. At the end of the day, here's the date, here's the format, here's the stuff, go. And I think if you try to do too much of that stuff by committee, to your point, everybody has their opinions and you kind of fight back and forth about it. And I think it's important that somebody just like owns it, says, here's what it is. And it's the end of that discussion. And if you have feedback, let me know. I think that piece of it is important.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to look at the other side of the coin of this too. Like, you put in all this effort, you created this structure, you got the word out, you communicated with all these different LGSs, you built out a really clean website too. It's really easy to navigate and see the leaderboard at all times. What's been the most like rewarding part of this process? Like, is there a day or a moment or feedback that you received that like just made it all worth it?
Yeah, I mean it keeps on giving in that regard. Like it's a service to the community on a certain level, it feels like. It's just like people get a lot of satisfaction from it, and it kind of enriches everybody's life. And to show up at a shop and to hear them talk about, okay, this is number 12, last chance to qualify. I think like, wow, we've been doing this for another year. I scrub out, I leave after 2 rounds, whatever, but everybody else is still there plugging away. Yeah, I think it's just shot through with like people thank me, people win, they come out on top. Like, Sung, I guess I just finally got him his token like last month or whatever, for winning last year. It all, yeah, it's all gravy in that respect. It's all a good feeling.
There's always a good feeling to like give back to the community. So like I totally get that. So we're kind of at the end of year 3. Just wanted to, if for people who haven't been following, like talk about what's coming at the end of June. What's the invitational look like? What are the formats? How many players do you have? Kind of just give that a quick rundown.
Yeah, absolutely. So every year there's the Players Championship at the end of the 12-month league open play. There's a open every, like you said, every month of varying formats. All $7 of every player entry throughout the year goes into the Players Championship prize pool. Um, and so people are playing for that cash, and sort of the esteem as well, of the status that you get from being a great player in a tough scene like this. So that's going to be the modern format will be Swiss, and then players going to draft some Final Fantasy for top eight, and then that'll be all sorted out through that way. Yeah, um, I think we had about, what was it, 200, maybe 250 unique players this year in the to come through and play MMSs. And we also had our first RCQ MMS last month. And so I'm excited to hopefully continue doing those. We saw a lot of people, a lot of new faces from doing that. A lot of new faces from when we did like Team Sealed. There was a lot of people. So it's the capstone is the championship for the season. So we're gonna duke it out, and we'll get our champion. It could be one of y'all very easily. But and then we do it again.
Unfortunately, I was out of town for the last one. How many players did you get for the RCQ MMS kind of crossover?
Good question. I want to say I think we had like 40,
Yeah.
something around there. As long as we're hitting 32, I think it is, or 35, that's our break even for the stores. Um, so yeah, as anything above that, I'm happy. Obviously, we want to make it worth their while. Um, But like end of the season, modern, not everybody's format. It's you can't show up to all of them.
So I guess this might be more of an inside baseball question, as Casey Miller would put it. But if the store doesn't break even, what happens? I mean, do they try and dip into the whatever funds are in the championship pool, or what do they do so that they can make this sustainable for them?
They don't get to dip into the championship pool. They certainly don't get to do that. There's only been, I think, one time that happened, and that was for a Pauper event last year. Um, yeah, there was just not a lot of the Pauper community didn't really materialize for whatever reason on that day. Scheduling is yeah. I shout out to Cora really for maintaining our local Denver area Magic schedule, but not only the Denver area Magic schedule, but also all of those out of state events, the major events that are going on throughout the year. Like that is indispensable to making what I do possible. Yeah, sometimes they just don't line up, but yeah, I mean, I covered the difference on that inside baseball, just because like I'm trying to keep everybody happy, and that is rooted in the stores being happy. And some places are very sensitive to taking a loss. I mean, like anybody in business, so try to make sure that doesn't happen. Um,
Yeah, see, benevolent dictator. That's what I'm talking about. It's perfect. Great job. We
there you go.
appreciate you, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, I know you got to run. I don't. Grant, did you have any other kind of final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to open the floor back open to Ian one more time to give any other shout outs. Obviously, you just mentioned Cora, but anyone that helped get it off the ground for you, anyone that's sort of your right hand person when it comes to helping with logistics there, just sort of kind of put a bow on it.
Yeah, I got a few more here. Aside from Cora helping out with that, anybody who's creating order out of the chaos that comes out of Wizards is helpful. So like, you know, thanks to Kyle over at Met Games, thanks to Mike at Mythic Games, thanks to Mitch over at DCG. Thanks to John up there at level 7, but then also like all their staff. Like I'm thinking about Leo over at Meh. Yeah, it's really a collaborative thing on some level. Like he'll have ideas. I'm like, hey, what do you think about doing modern? And he'll be like, actually, what about this instead? And I'm like, that's a good point. Maybe we should, let's play standard this time or whatever it is. So, um, I may be sort of putting it down on the website and like spreading the word about it, but whether it's Leo or like Mitch or Corey at Mythic, of the level 7 crew, it is ultimately, it's a lot of inputs. It's a lot of people love the game in it together to try to make something happen that everybody gives a little, we get a lot.
Yeah, that's perfect. I know it definitely takes a village too, and I guess one last question. I know that was sort of supposed to be the last one here, but let's say that you did want to hang up the cards and sort of step away. Is this something that would still continue, or obviously this is more hypothetical than anything? But I think that being an attendee and being an avid enjoyer of the Mountain Magic series, I'd love to see this thing keep going forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, my enthusiasm for competitive Magic has sort of been flagging as of late, and so I've thought about it um, and what it would look like. I just sort of accepted that I was never going to be like on the pro tour, and so like I don't know, playing for stakes is still fun. It's just sort of lost a little bit of that luster for me, but and so now I'm you know and the dual commander uh, side of things, and just having fun with it. So, but yeah, like it doesn't need to be me doing it. The Mountain Magic series could roll on with anybody, basically. Like I kind of been talking about. I would just like hand it to somebody who I thought would be a good steward, and like just the sort of the upswelling of support and interest from people. Like for example, we were trying to start streaming the events. Um, you know, Josh volunteering, Mac volunteering, Grant, you're out there volunteering. Like there's a whole set of people who are kind of like already are like really into it, who just kind of showed me that it could very easily continue if, you know, I would just have to try to find the right person, the right set of people, whatever it would be. And, it would just keep going. And yeah, and hopefully that we've talked about it and that it's like kind of demystifies what happens behind the scenes. It's just not, as long as you can talk to store owners and they kind of know what they're getting and what's expected from them and at what time and who's getting what. And they get everything besides that $7 or whatever. Um, yeah, it could just, I don't see any reason like why it could just keep growing. Um, even without me. So
Oh, we love to hear that, man, because we all enjoy playing. So, I really wanted to appreciate you and just say, hey, obviously both Grant and I have really enjoyed it, and I know everybody else has too, and it's something that a bunch of people look forward to every month. So, just a thank you from us, and if there's anything else we can do for you or help you spread the word or whatever, just let us know. We're happy to do that.
yeah, I appreciate you, man. Like, and yeah, there's a lot that's still, if I ask y'all to follow the Mountain Magic series on social media, please do. That's something that I have. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of enhancements. There's a lot of stuff that has yet to be done to make it as big and polished and as good as it could be. And so, yeah, I'm always happy to hear about it, to get input. May not be the fastest acting benevolent dictator on the planet, but I definitely hear everybody, and I want it to be just as fun and as interesting for everybody as possible. So, um, you guys are both qualified though. So, what are y'all trying to play in this
That's an interesting question.
modern format?
Yeah, I'm like, I've never been very good at modern, honestly. So I will probably just play some variant of my prowess deck again, and then probably the format that I am worst at is drafting and playing limited. So my chances aren't great, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. And luckily, I'm gonna ping Daniel Cooperman, who's usually on our team, who's like the limited guru, and have him like dump his brain to me about the format and try to get some reps in. So we'll see. It's it'd be different if it was like Legacy and Vintage Cube, like that's like right up my alley. Modern and Final Fantasy Limited is gonna be tough for me, but maybe Grant has a better shot than I do.
I'm basically in the opposite boat from Lee. I don't know what I'm going to do about modern, but if I do end up getting to the draft, I'll be a lot cozier, I think, because I would say that I'm probably a stronger limited player than I am a modern player at this point. But limited's also an endless like bucket of skill that you can always be obtaining. It's like the hardest format ever. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna play something that probably just hits below the belt like I normally do. Something super fast and cheating on mana and ending turns and in a single or ending games in a single turn. You know how I roll in.
I do. I mean, could we get some elves with some Blood Moons and Urza Saga in it? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, but it won't be what I register. I can bring it though.
Yeah, my own enthusiasm leaking out here.
There you go. There you go. Well, I appreciate it, Ian. All the hard work you do definitely doesn't go unnoticed. I think this is probably a good place to call it here. And, I look forward to seeing you on Championship Sunday, June 29th. And I look forward to seeing all the other competitors there. Anyone that's listening that hasn't played in the Mountain Magic series, there's really no excuse if you're in the Denver area because there's always going to be a format or an event for you to look forward to. Ian's done a great job of appealing to all Magic players, and we can't thank him enough.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.